Welcome back to week 7 of building BRACCA. First up for this episode, I built the roof for the hangar bay, which will be the floor of the second level. Now, as you can see, it's relatively thick, this kind of in-between layer, because I wanted to make it as strong as possible. It's able to easily hold 5 kilos, if not 8, which is around 10 to 15 pounds. So really happy with that. The reason because is it's almost 4 bricks thick of Technic and little kind of beams on the side, which kind of acts as Lego trusses, I guess is the best way to explain it. Now, it's held up quite a lot by these back walls. If I can get the camera angle down there, so you can see the back 2 walls hold up a decent amount of the weight, and then this front pillar here holds up quite a bit of the weight. So I've tried to build it as strong as possible on the edges so that they can hold as much of the weight as possible. The only slight area where it dips is right in the middle of this area, but that's barely any at maximum weight, so really happy with that. It's about 80 studs wide, and 50 studs or 60 studs deep, so that's a very large area to not have a central beam holding up in the middle. So the fact that there's barely any dip in the center, I'm really happy with. And then once I completed that design for the Technic structure, I came along and just added some greebling detail. If you saw last week, it was in the initial kind of sketch of how I wanted to make this roof, and I think it just creates a nice level of detail between the 2 layers, because I didn't want just like 4 bricks worth of just flat grey space in between the levels. I think that wouldn't have looked nice. Also saves me parts because I'm starting to run out of bricks, but I'll get into that right now. Okay, so I had to finally get some reinforcements for the mock. What I mean by that is I had to go to the Lego store and buy a few pick-a-brick cups. I got about a cup and a half of these 2x4 bricks, so I probably got 200 of those. I also got some of these wedge plate designs, which I've come up with kind of a new wall design for that, which you'll see probably not in this episode, but in the next one. Besides that, I've also spent a lot of time collecting parts, a bunch of different grey parts, and you can see the greebling detail that I had to get for that other section on the roof. And yeah, so a lot of this week has been collecting parts, but that's coming really handy and is going to speed up the next couple episodes, or next episode, hopefully. Besides that, I got a bunch of different parts from the Lego store, some cheese lopes, flower pieces, which I've started to collect those in a bunch of colours, so that'll be helpful for mocks. Also got this dark green hollow stud, you can see there, which is going to be really useful if I want to do any foliage, not for this mock, but for other mocks. Got this really interesting piece which I want to somehow use in this mock, and I'm not sure, maybe a wall design. If you got any ideas about that, be really helpful. White slopes, if I ever want to make a Hoth mock. Snot bricks, which again, always come in handy, no matter the color, really. I'm thinking about making a video on how to make snot techniques. I'll go through the basics and some of the more complicated ones like mosaics, stuff like that. So if you want to see that, let me know. If not, I won't make it. Other than that, I got these half cylinder pieces, which I think I can use these in the mocks again for like pipes, so that'll be helpful. White tiles again for if I want to build a Hoth mock, and these kind of roof pieces which aren't in the right color for the Roman style houses, but I think in red they'll work anyway, so I got them if I ever wanted to make a Roman mock, which I probably will. Now let's get into the second part of this week's episode. Okay, for the second part of this episode, I've designed the AV7 cannon and the platform. Now, let me restate that I didn't design the top of this turret. That's BRACCA's design. It's a slight modification of it, but besides that, the rest is my own design. I came up with this new, I don't know how to describe this. This is where the cannon is able to move. My model doesn't actually move that well. It can move, but it's a bit unstable. But besides that, I think I've done quite well in the kind of creating a replica. I'll show a picture. Okay, now that you've seen that, you can see like what I'm talking about and the fact that I've gone for these mosaic technique to create this kind of what's it called, warning sign patterns. I guess that's the best word for them. Just basic key slopes and tiles. The issue I had was the fact that I can only build 2 bricks deep, and that came into a problem. The fact that my mosaic design had to be 1 brick deep because it has to have a layer of fill underneath to hold it from falling through underneath the mock. Now if I can get underneath there, it's a bit hard for me to film. You can kind of see that there's a few clear pieces under the mosaic tile. It's a bit dark, my bad, but you can kind of see how I was able to come up with that design even there. And yes, I've decided to not build an underneath layer for the roof just for parts reason. You almost never see the underside of the roof, so no point in me wasting any parts for that. Besides that, the only issue I've had is that the cannon droops a bit. It can't hold up its own weight. I don't know how to fix this design. If anyone can help me, that'd be appreciated, but I've literally tried so many things. I think the problem is that Lego just doesn't make strong enough axles. If they were made of metal, I'm sure they'd hold. Now, besides that, I'll go through some of the details. You've got this kind of yellow pipe with the black droid arms that goes through to the end. Again, I've made some parts changes from the BRACCA design just because I didn't spend any money on the parts, so had to make some substitutions. Slight differences here at the bottom is I've gone for a bit of a smaller design because I think the BRACCA design of this part of the mock is a bit too large, or at least because this switches from the 4-legged version of the AV7 cannon to the kind of ground mounted version, the base is a lot smaller, so I changed that design quite a bit. Came up with this technique that uses these 3x3 the tie bomber pieces, or that's at least where I've got mine from. You can kind of see that they just sit on there. I'll give you a close-up of the kind of techniques that we're using there. Pretty basic stuff, just some basic snot techniques of going from 90 degrees and stuff like that. But I'm not done yet. I couldn't just build one of them, I had to build 2. Now this has probably become my favourite part of the mock. Just the accuracy that I was able to get with these 2 cannons is absolutely perfect in my opinion. They are basically identical. The only slight difference is the fact that this newer one uses some of the bright yellow pieces and the normal yellow, as you can kind of see with that part there. I don't know why Lego has 2 different yellow colors, but I found that out today, so the more you know. Now, I'm only going to create 2. I would potentially have the parts for a 3rd one, but I don't think it's super necessary. And again, I may not have the parts for it. The one thing that I'm probably going to have to do, or I'm not quite sure on what to do, is whether or not to move these back a bit, because I don't want the ends of the cannon sticking out too much over the edge of this, but I also want to have space to build the rooms at the back there. So I'm hoping of making the armory section probably around here, which is also why I don't want to go for a 3rd one. Then I'm thinking medbay scene, or the scene where they get rid of the inhibitor chips, and then I'm thinking a small control room. I've also got the slight problem of this shelf here, so that limits the height a little bit, but I could still definitely get some decently sized rooms in there. They're just not going to be super tall. What I'm probably going to find is the height of the indoor roofs are going to be about the height of those shelves, maybe a bit lower, and then this wall back here, which I'm going to create, is going to at least be the height of the engine. And yes, I'm able to move the mock just slightly because that doesn't line up with this shelf here. These shelves have been a bit annoying for this mock, but I've kind of had to build around them, which has been funny. I've literally made this mock as large as my table, and it's had to fit around the shelves, which I just find really funny. Anyway, the last thing for this week's episode is I built this small little alarm design, which hopefully you can see on my hand here. Now, the reason I built this is because one guy has been asking me basically every single update to build this alarm design, so made it for him. I'm going to add a little tiny light brick behind it and probably place it up there. Quite happy with this simple design. It only takes about 10 parts. Alright. Besides that, that's all I've got time for in this week's episode.